Hello everybody, today's topic is still Felix. Felix Dzerzhinsky was born on September 11, 1877 in Polish Dworan family in residency near Minsk. His father, Edmund, graduated in physics-mathematics at Petersburg University. After university, he started to teach kids from richer families. He came to Vilnius and fell in love with his student, daughter of professor, and got married. He taught in Kherson, Taganrog, but facing some difficulties with work availability, family returned to their residency, which later would be called Dzerzhinovo. His father died young, so the family did not have much money. Dzerzhinsky had 7 siblings. The eldest sister, Aldona, had a peaceful life and helped her mother to take care of younger siblings. Next sister, Jadwiga, would live in Ussr and would be close to Dzerzhinsky. The elder brother, Stanislav, would be killed at home by deserters who ran away from the front line during the World War I. Next one, Kazimir, would be killed by Nazis during the World War II. Then there was Felix. Then there was Wanda, a sister whose short life was full of rumors. According to rumors, one day Felix and Stanislav took a gun to go hunting or to practice shooting. Accidentally, they shot into their sister Wanda, who was somewhere in the bushes. She died. Next was brother Ignaty. He would be a geography teacher in school in Warsaw. And last one, Vladislav, was a professor of medicine and colonel of the Polish army. He also fought against Nazis and was killed. In 1887, Dzerzhinsky went to gymnasium in Vilnius and studied there until 1895. He was an okay student, but could have tried better. In gymnasium, he was first introduced to Marxism. In 1880, 1890s, there were more and more proletariat in Poland. Peasants didn't meet the expectations of intelligentsia, so dворяns had to focus on the proletariat. Marxism started to spread in Poland. The other trend was nationalism. People wanted to be independent from Russian Empire. So first, Dzerzhinsky was a nationalist. He was a religious Catholic who wanted to become a priest. Dzerzhinsky was introduced to Marxism and started to read German Socialists. In 1895, he left gymnasium in order to participate in revolutionary activities. In the same year, he joined Lithuanian Social Democratic Party, which was illegal, and its members were hunted by police. Dzerzhinsky agitated factory workers, printed papers which called to overthrow the monarchy, and organized strikes. It is important to say that Polish Marxists did not share separatism ideas of nationalists, as Marxists thought that independence movement would divert proletariat attention from the most important thing, class struggle. In 1897, Dzerzhinsky was arrested and imprisoned in Koven jail, where he spent 1 year. In 1898, he was deported to Norilsk for 3 years under police surveillance. There, he worked in tobacco factory and started to agitate workers. For these revolutionary activities, he was sent to village Kaigorodskoe, from which he escaped by boat in August 1899, first to Vilnius and then to Warsaw. In Warsaw, Dzerzhinsky started to create Social Democratic Party, but in 1900 was arrested and imprisoned in Warsaw Citadel. In January 1902, was sentenced for 5 years in Yakutia, Wiluisk. But on the way there, he ran away and immigrated abroad. In Berlin, he found himself among many immigrated Marxists. Dzerzhinsky was elected as a secretary of the party. He was in charge of printing newspapers Czerwony Standard or Red Flag. He came back to Warsaw and learned Yiddish to agitate Polish Jewish workers. Karl Radsk, a Polish revolutionary, wrote about Dzerzhinsky. We were laughing because in Central Committee of the Polish Social Democratic Party, where there were Jews, the only person who could read in Yiddish was Dzerzhinsky, a dворянин and Catholic. On May 1, 1905, Dzerzhinsky led the demonstration. In July, he was arrested in Warsaw but released under amnesty. Dzerzhinsky met Lenin and made efforts to unite Bolsheviks and Polish Social Democrats. In April 1908, he was arrested in Warsaw, and in 1909, Dzerzhinsky was sentenced for lifelong settlement in Siberia. He ran away again and came to Kopri, to Russian writer Maxim Gorky. The writer gave shelter to all political immigrants. After that, Dzerzhinsky came back to Krakow and got married to Sofia Mushkat. Being pregnant, Sofia was arrested and sent to Siberia. She gave birth to a son who was taken away by orphanage and later by some relatives. Sofia escaped from the settlement, took her son, and immigrated to Switzerland. In September 1912, Dzerzhinsky was arrested again, and now for a long time. In 1914, he was sentenced to hard labor for 3 years, and in 1916, his sentence was extended in Butyrskaya prison, from which he was released on March 1, 1917. In total, Dzerzhinsky spent 11 years in prisons, which undermined his health. After February Revolution, Dzerzhinsky, together with his party members, joined Bolsheviks party. He was one of the initiators of October Revolution. During the upheaval, Dzerzhinsky organized troops of the Red Army and seized post office and telegraph. As Bolsheviks' power was not accepted by everyone, the party created Cheka, All-Russian Emergency Commission, in December 1917. The head of Cheka was Dzerzhinsky. This institute, changing names, would exist until the end of the Ussr and in modern Russia transformed into FSB. At first, Cheka's function was to fight with provocators and sabotage. They would look for provocators and hand over them to the investigating authorities. But the situation has changed. Sabotage in the beginning of 1918 did not include murders or explosions of the buildings and railway stations. Sabotage was expressed in refusal of old ministry workers to perform their duties under Bolsheviks. So Cheka had to arrest them, claiming their counter-revolutionary activities. On July 17, 1918, there happened a revolt of left Esers, which became a beginning of the Red Terror. In July 1918, two representatives of Cheka, Blumkin and Andreev, came to Germany embassy. They wanted to assassinate German ambassador Mirbach, who was doing negotiations about Brest peace. Two Esers said that Mirbach's nephew was arrested and they wanted to discuss that problem. The ambassador allowed them to enter his office and said that he had no nephew. Esers started to shoot and threw a bomb. Mirbach was killed, and Esers, being injured, jumped out of the window. They came to Cheka's building and their allies hid Blumkin and Andreev. Later, Andreev would die in Odessa during civil war. Blumkin would be amnested by Dzerzhinsky's proposal and would serve in Cheka. Later, he would be shot as Trotsky's follower. At the same time, left Esers refused to accept constitution proposed by Bolsheviks. Check my video to know the difference between two factions. Esers seized the main building of Cheka with Dzerzhinsky as a hostage. In Bolshoi Theater, there was a Congress of Soviets. All non-Esers were allowed to leave theater, and 400 Esers left there as hostages. Next morning, Kamenev arrived to Bolshoi Theater and told them, "You are arrested not as a faction but as a party members who revolted against Soviet power." Latvian troops headed by Vatsetis surrounded Cheka's building and started shooting. Esers gave up. Dzerzhinsky was released. All Esers were kicked out from governmental institutions. There is a hypothesis that attack on embassy was provoked by Bolsheviks in order to trigger Esers and have a reason to oppress them, but there is no evidence for that. In fall 1918, after Fanny's Kaplan unsuccessful attempt to kill Lenin, Red Terror was on its way. Now Cheka could take hostages from exploitatory classes and kill them in case of any other assassinations or White Army offense. Just for September 1918, 2,000 hostages were killed. During civil war, the role of Cheka has increased. Now Cheka had a right to punish in order to prevent crime. Also, Cheka could organize revolutionary tribunals, which carried out counter-revolutionary cases and had unlimited power for repressions. Civil war had finished and Cheka became GPU, which was again headed by Dzerzhinsky. Dzerzhinsky initiated a struggle with children's homelessness. Many kids were orphans due to the First World War and Civil War, so Dzerzhinsky created a structure of children's institutions where those kids were brought. But an interesting thing was that those kids worked in those institutions in return for food, medical service, and primary education. In the beginning of 1920s, Lenin was already sick, so the power struggle between his loyalties had begun. During Civil War, Dzerzhinsky was close to Trotsky, but after it, Dzerzhinsky started to get closer to Stalin. Luckily for Dzerzhinsky, he died 2 years after Lenin in 1926, skipping most of power competition, power consolidation by Stalin, and subsequent purges. In sum, I think Dzerzhinsky was a fanatic, a person who was good at making revolution. I do believe he would be repressed with Kamenev and Zinoviev in 1930s if he survived. He was an effective manager as he was able to lay down foundations for Russian long-lasting institution Cheka, but he was not an ideologist, which seemed to be crucial for the first years of communist Russia. Let me know what you think about him, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.